Let me get everybody straightened out. There we go. Hi, and welcome to the 8th edition of the Mouthwash Talk Show. Who knew we'd last this long? We had some special guest hosts last week, and it got a little heated. So tonight we're going to have our usual civil guests back, and we have Ashton. She's still muted there. So Ashton, go ahead and unmute yourself and let us know how you're doing. There you go. I found that.
I'm well. How are you?
What did you do for your 1 week vacation? Did you do anything special?
I took a nap. Full disclosure, I took a nap. That's nice.
Because we got such a spectacular show, you needed to rest. So, yes. Jacob, how you doing this evening? What'd you do on your vacation?
I'm doing great and happy to be back. It's definitely being back is more entertaining than what I did on vacation. I just ran some errands up in Chicago, dealing with all the wonderful traffic up there. So I'm much happier to be back here tonight.
Yeah, and we have an interesting show tonight with everything that's going on, and you have some fans. You got some fans here that want to watch. So we're going to get right into it, and we have this new segment, Peeps on the Streets. So we're going to hope this goes smoothly, but Thomas Breedlove was in quarantine because he got sick and he had to take a knee. So guess who got to go out and do the Peeps on the Streets thing. So this was actually fun. I got these interviews done in about 40 minutes. It's amazing how many people want to talk on camera. So let's see if I can get this done here. Well, Thomas Breedlove is taken ill, and so I am going to be stepping in for him this week for the Peeps on the Streets interviews. So let's see what we have. And we're down here at the Circle, and this is the segment Peeps on the Streets, where we ask common folk that are out wandering around Indianapolis what they did with their stimulus check. First of all, did you get a check?
Not yet.
Not yet. Are you going to get one?
Wednesday.
Wednesday. So you're counting down the time, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
So what do you got? What are your plans on to spend it or save it? What are you going to do?
Catch up on bills.
Catch up on bills. Do you think the stimulus check was enough?
It's sufficient.
It's sufficient. So, and the final question: who do you think's paying for this?
Our kids will.
Okay, so you're fine with spending their allowance, right? Is that what I'm saying? Where are you from?
Originally Huntsville, Alabama.
All right. Well, your accent must be in Huntsville because you don't have it.
It is.
All right. Thanks. Thanks a lot.
My hair look good?
Yeah, you look great. Okay. First of all, did you get a stimulus package?
I did.
Okay. Did you think it was enough? Not enough? Too much?
I thought it was enough.
It was enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Who do you think's paying for that?
We are.
Okay, so we got our own money back, right?
Yep.
Okay, the big question now is, what did you do with your stimulus check? You still have it, or you spent it?
I actually still have it. It's in the bank.
It's in the bank? You got any plans? Any big plans?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay, all right. Where are you from?
Fishers.
Fishers. Oh, so you traveled all the way down to Fishers.
Yep.
It's a nice day today, isn't it?
Yep.
Well, I thank you very much for your comments. And
no problem.
You'll be on the Mouthwash Talk Show now. And sir, do you get the stimulus package?
No, not at all.
Not gonna get it.
No.
And why was that? Why would you like to tell us why?
Yeah, I make too much money.
That's a bad problem to have. So, do you think the stimulus check, if you were to get one, is it enough? Too little? Do you think that's the right amount?
What, 14 a month?
Well, 14 one time, 1,400.
One time? My bills cost more than the stimulus, and that's a month. So, no, I don't think it's enough, even if I was to get one.
So, who do you think's paying for this?
Of course, me and every other taxpayer.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, we better spend it wisely. So, speaking of spending, if you were to get one, what would you spend it on? New Ferrari or something?
Bills? No. I'll spend my stimulus on bills.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you sound like a pretty upstanding citizen. We need more people like you.
I am. I'm an upstanding citizen of America.
Where are you from?
Chicago, born and raised.
Okay, you're down here visiting?
Oh no, I live in Beach Grove area.
Are you going to get a stimulus check?
Got one.
Got one. Okay.
Yes,
now, do you think it's enough, not enough, or too little, or what?
It's plenty. It's plenty. I haven't been following the news. It just showed up, and I loved it. I'll be honest with you.
Okay. I don't free money. It really is.
Yeah.
But wait a second. Who's paying for this?
I don't know.
I don't know. See, I don't know either, but
Yes.
I'm going to take my check and cash it.
I am the worst person to ask about the politics of a stimulus check. I'll be up front with you. I have no idea.
All right, but you're going to spend it, right? Or what are you going to do with it?
Save it.
You're going to save it? Okay.
Yep.
Are you going to get a stimulus check?
I am hoping to get one.
Oh, you haven't gotten it yet, right?
I haven't got the third one, but I did get the first one and the second one. Yes.
Okay. Do you think the one coming out, is that an adequate amount, or too much, too little?
I think it's fair.
It's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question is, who do you think's paying for that?
Probably the taxpayers.
Okay. Yeah, I think that too. Okay. So when you get yours, do you have any plans to spend it on anything? What's the plan?
I'm actually going to save mine for bills. I was laid off maybe about a month and a half ago, so I'm going to need it for bills.
Yeah. So where are you from?
St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay. And you're just visiting in town here?
Yes.
For the basketball?
Well, actually, I was visiting, but I live here now.
Oh, okay.
I forgot I live here.
Oh, you forgot. That's going to be important when you need to go home.
Yes, I've been here almost 2 years now.
Are you going to get a stimulus check?
I already did.
Oh, you already got it. Now, do you think it's enough? Too little? What?
I mean, I think it's enough.
It's enough.
Yeah.
It's enough for you.
Yeah.
Who do you think's paying for this?
I think our kids are going to pay for it.
They deserve to pay for it. I think. I mean, I've had a hard time raising those 4 kids.
Yeah.
All right. So my last question is, what are you going to do with it?
Really, I wanted to buy an AR-15 to say thanks, Joe Biden, for providing this AR-15 for me. But actually, we put it in savings, and we're going to look to pay off some things.
Are you going to get a stimulus check?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to get one this year. Combined made more than the requirement.
So you made too much money to get them. That's a good problem to have, but you don't feel like you may be left out. So do you think those that are getting stimulus checks, do you think that's a good amount? Maybe too much, maybe too little, or is that a good amount?
I believe the people who really need it could use a lot more. It's really been a difficult time this past year, and so those who in need could probably use more.
Yep, yep. So if you were to get a stimulus check, what would you use it for?
To pay off bills.
Pay off bills.
That's a
credit
cards.
Question.
Credit cards.
So the last question is, who do you think's paying for it?
We are the taxpayers.
All right. And there you have it. That's a wrap. This is John Schmitz from downtown Indianapolis for the Peeps on the Street segment. So that's our topic for this evening. It's going to be the stimulus check, and what did you do with it, and what can we expect? So hopefully there'll be some folks in the chat that will tell us if they're getting one, and answer those questions, the 4 questions. Did you get one? What are you going to do with it? Who's paying for it? And is it enough? So you can go ahead and put that in there, but let's get started with our first topic. Let's talk about the latest thing that we just had come out about the how they can garnish your check if you owe money. So Ashton, can you tell us, Ashton's going to do the federal side, and then Jacob's going to do our Indiana Supreme Court side. So go ahead, Ashton, take it away. Give us the lowdown on this.
Yeah, so when they originally passed this package, they wanted to get it out. They wanted to get this money to the American people. So they didn't have time to go through budget reconciliation rules. So some debts can be garnished if they're not federally owned debts. So like federal student loans, things along those lines. It also can't be taken if it's for child support, back paid child support. But if it's a private debt or a debt collector has a court order, they can garnish it. Now, this doesn't mean that that's going to be the case everywhere. This was just federally what was happening in the stimulus package itself. And so then they sent that off to the states. And then each state can make its own decision on how they're going to garnish these checks, or if they're even going to garnish them at all, or if there are different rules than what's in the federal package. That's kind of left to the state level. And I know the Indiana Supreme Court made some decisions, and Jacob was talking about that. So I'll let him go ahead and take that.
Yeah, basically to kind of piggyback off what Ashton was saying is that because they kind of rushed this bill through reconciliation, they didn't really deal with the issues of wage garnishment and stuff with the new checks. So by leaving it up to each individual state can basically make a decision whether to garnish those checks for debts or not. And so in Indiana, there was a case brought before the Indiana State Supreme Court, not the U.S. Supreme Court, the local state Supreme Court, and they made a ruling basically that that debt collectors can garnish the stimulus check for certain debts that the recipient of the check might have outstanding. So that's the situation in the state of Indiana in a nutshell.
All right. Well, that would be a bummer. I mean, you're supposed to be getting a check and then you get the rug pulled out from under you. But I guess, you know, if you owe, you owe. Somebody's going to get the money, right? So let's see. Let's start with Ashton. Did you get your check?
I did.
Did you? And did you think it was not enough, too much, or just right, like baby bear porridge?
For me or just in general?
Yeah, for you. And in general, both. That's a two-sided question. So,
well, for me, yeah, I'd say it was enough. But I think that the thing that's difficult with the stimulus package, all of them that we've had, and in general doing something like this that's so federal, it's just across the country, is that there's different standards of living. So $1,400 to me is a lot in Indiana. But $1,400 to my friend Maddie in LA is nothing. So it's just, there's different cost of living in different areas. So that $1,400 is going to mean something different to different people depending on where they live.
Okay. And like the guy, if you could hear the video, the guy from Chicago, he thought $1,400 was like, oh, and he made too much money to get a check anyway. So yeah, I can see how that would happen. So, Jacob, what, did you get a check? And
unfortunately, I did not, because actually under the provisions, and not just this stimulus bill, but the previous two, college students that are still living at home basically are not entitled to it. They're one of the groups that are excluded. So I did not get one. I believe I believe other people in my family, though, are eligible for it, just not me, unfortunately.
Okay.
Can I interrupt on that?
Sure.
Just to make that more clear. If your parents filed you as a dependent, then that's the case. But if you're a student that filed independently on your taxes, then you still get the stimulus.
So, Jacob, did your parents get the check for you? Because I think some kid didn't. If you had kids, did you get more money? My kids are long gone, so they got to pay for this thing.
Only up to 19.
Or no, I think up to 17 actually, Ashton. Is it 19 or?
For this package, it was 19.
Okay. It was 17 for the last one.
Okay. The rules. Who makes up these rules, I wonder? Somebody's sitting around in a room, they're probably smoking cigars going, hey, who's going to get a check? Who's going to get a check? You're not getting a check. The difference was
there were different amounts for different age groups. So if you're 17 to 19, it wasn't the full 1,400 was my understanding.
So, hey, somebody's getting a call. Yeah. So here's one. This says first check was taken. The second one, this one's going to go through tomorrow. And if you saw smoking room deals, yeah, I bet that was. There was one of the guys in the interview that's getting his check tomorrow. So I know several people that are getting. So there must be another wave. I wonder how they pick who gets to get paid first. I mean, that's not alphabetical order because I'm Schmitz. I should be last. So, Ashton, what do you think about that?
Well, it was really just based off of when you filed your taxes, how readily available your bank information was. Like I filed my 2020 tax return back in January. And so my stimulus check hit pretty much immediately because it was already filed. But if you didn't file your tax return or there was some sort of discrepancy, or if you were getting mailed a check and you moved, there's all sorts of factors that go into play as to when you get it. And I saw someone had asked a question. I don't know if you can find it, John, about how much they should be getting.
They asked the question. Yeah. Hold on. Here, this one. Yeah. How much? Yeah. They're the 70s. So I think it was like we're supposed to get $1,400 each, right? I mean, each person.
So every eligible American would start with a $1,400 check, and that's the base amount, and that goes up to $2,800 for married couples if they filed a joint tax return, and then for each dependent in the family up to 19 years old, an extra $1,400 will be added to the base amount, but not everyone's going to get the full amount. So the third round, they were phased out. So people with the adjusted gross income above a certain amount won't get theirs. And that amount was lowered. It was originally written to go to every American, but Republicans debated to get that lowered. So it actually got lowered to if you're single and you make $75,000 or more, if you single or filed separately, if it's $75,000 or more, you don't get anything. And that threshold, yeah. So if you're head of household, you have dependents, it's $112,500 for head of household filers, and $150,000 for married couples filing a joint return.
And then I thought I saw where it said like you could go 155, 160, and it got a little lesser amount. But if you made more than 160 combined, you were hosed. So
yeah, I misspoke. There's a 5,000 gap, so it's adjusted gross income for single filers of 80,000. It goes down.
Okay, go ahead. We got a question from Dennis here, or Derek. Well, let's do the first one that he said. Let's see he's talking about how much has gone overseas or doesn't help Americans. And I heard about this 9% is only going to taxpayers. I don't know. Can anybody give me a little bit more on that, or is that it's another follow up with that? So
I feel like I've been talking a lot.
Yeah, Jacob, go ahead.
Well,
no, go ahead, Ashton. I think you know the answer.
I was really hoping someone would bring that up. That actually originated in a Facebook meme, the 9% rumor. That's not factual at all. Someone put it out on Facebook and it got shared a ton, and it's not true. Actually, 85% of the bill is directly helping COVID relief. The other 15% of this specific bill is going to, 85% of Americans are getting one. 85% of the bill is actually going towards some sort of coronavirus relief. And it's 15% is going towards like long-standing things that we're trying to be fixed, like infrastructure. But yeah, people are trying to say that only 9% is going towards helping Americans. And that's just simply not true, because 22% of the total bill comes from the stimulus checks.
Okay. That's very good. We have a very smart audience that out here. They're going right along with this. Okay. So Jacob, I'm going to ask you, if, since you're a starving college kid and probably eat pizza every night at your parents' house, maybe, what would you, if you got a stimulus check, what would you do?
What I ideally would do if I had a stimulus check is I would try to invest it in some way, and I probably would invest it in something tangible. Like, if I had a decent amount of other money, I'd maybe buy some land or buy something, maybe something that has some worth, like maybe like precious metals or something like that. Something that has some value to it, because what a lot of people don't realize is I'm very much against stimulus for this reason, that a lot of people don't realize that even if stimulus might help you in the short term, like you get $1,400 to pay your bill on something like, say, your rent or your food bill or whatever, it doesn't really help you in the long term, because when the Federal Reserve and the federal government just print money limitlessly, it devalues the overall value of our currency. So meaning that each dollar you have becomes worth less and less, because there's so many dollars out there in circulation. When you have more of something, it becomes less valuable, obviously. So I would recommend for people to take that stimulus check and buy something that is inflation resistant, such as precious metals or land, because I think that after having 3 stimulus packages and possibly talking about a 4th one, I think in the next year to couple years, you're going to see inflation really go through the roof. So getting back to the point that was made earlier in the comments, even if a decent amount of this money was sent overseas, not directly helping Americans, even if all that money was spent here, it really doesn't help Americans either. Because sure, it gives you some short-term gain, like, oh, I got my $1,400. Well, that $1,400 is going to cost you way more over the next few years than not receiving a check at all.
Yeah, and that's a good segue, Jacob. You're really good at this. Are you sure you're not a pro? Because here's a report from Kansas City TV that I found. A 4th stimulus check might be coming. I put that in the very top of the chat. So you can look it up on there. But apparently they're going to extend the unemployment till September. But there's rumor that there's another check coming out in October, and this package may be bigger than the last one. So, Ashton, what do you think about piling on some more debt about this?
Well, I think we need to be really intentional with what we're doing. I think we all know that people are struggling. I don't think anyone is going to say that that's not the case. People are struggling. People have lost their jobs. People lost their jobs and then got behind on their bills, and now they can't pay them. It's a big struggle. I mean, it's something that we have to address. And we're all in this together, trying to figure out a way to help each other stay afloat and help each other get through such a really troubling time. And so I think there are things that are necessary to help people get through what we're going through. But I also think we should look at the long-term consequences of that and make sure that what we're doing is intentional and is going to help the American people. I think that bailouts for large corporations need to not be included in things like this. I think that we need to really focus on the American people and helping them get through the pandemic, make sure they can pay their bills, make sure that they're staying in their homes. And, for example, making sure people can't be evicted, things like that, just to make sure that we can get through this, because people are experiencing hardships. And it's important that we as a country band together to make sure that we can stay afloat. And it's definitely something we need to look at with the long-term consequences of, but we also need to realize in the now people are struggling and people really need help.
All right. Well, Adam makes a point that I've heard from a few people. Government created the mess in the first place by shutting down the economy. So, Jacob, you start on this one, then Ashton can go after this. I can see how this is going to go a little bit, okay?
I was actually going to segue right into that point, because I just saw that comment just before you pulled it up, John. And Adam's 100% right about that. Government did create this mess. I love when these governors get up there. I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat. A lot of times they get up there and say, oh, COVID shut down the economy. Your job was put under because of COVID. The disease didn't shut my business down. The disease didn't cause my boss to fire me. It was overreaching policies from state and local governments, because you had certain states that never did shut down, like, say, South Dakota, that is at a 3% unemployment rate, which is lower than it was during the height of the Trump economy. So the thing is these government policies did not really alter the course of the virus, because you can look at South Dakota. They had a spike in cases just like everybody else did at one point. The curve went up and then it went down, just like it did in Illinois and in New York and in Florida and in Indiana and every other state around the country. These government policies did very little to impact the trajectory of the virus. And the one thing it did is it flattened a curve, all right. It flattened the economic curve of many Americans. So what government, if they really want to be very helpful, is stop printing more money that is going to cause rapid inflation in the next few years, and just open the economy up. Do that. And maybe if you have some sort of targeted spending program, that's the most I would go. And I'm not a big proponent of government spending. I would say if you just simply open the economy up and just take the restrictions off of private businesses, I think a lot of jobs will come back. But basically my message to government is tonight, please stop trying to help us. You're not helping.
That's the old, I'm from the government, I'm here to help. Okay, Ashton, I think you might have a differing opinion, maybe?
I do have a differing opinion. So how do you know, John? I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's what I love about you guys. It's the contrast. It's like you guys play your parts so well. I love it.
I think the big thing is that we didn't do it correctly, and we did not shut down correctly. We didn't shut down quickly enough. We didn't take it seriously enough. And the government can shut it down. But I know you all have seen all the individuals out there with their personal freedom, burning their masks and running around being crazy. So the deal is that if we had shut down, we saw in other countries, there was a complete return to normalcy. They were able to go back. It is true. Go look at New Zealand.
Europe's shutting down for a third time. Germany just decided to lock down.
But they were able to reopen for a period because New Zealand had 0 cases for months. And then they had another couple cases. They shut down for a few weeks and then opened back up again when they returned to 0. So we have to look at other countries that took this seriously. People didn't run around without masks on, even if there is a mask mandate. people are, I don't care about everybody else. I don't want to wear a mask on my face, so I'm going to take it off. Okay, well, it didn't help anything. So they're not helping the economy because we shut it down with the purpose of people staying home, people wearing masks, people not increasing the spread of COVID. And then they didn't do that. And then COVID still spread. And so then the economy had to be shut down longer to help protect people from being in large gatherings. So if people had just followed the rules and regulations of what WHO said and the CDC, and then we might not be in this mess. We've been dealing with this for so long. People want instant gratification and aren't looking at the long-term consequences. And I know, Jacob, you're going to say that's what we're doing with the stimulus package. So I wanted to get ahead of that. But they're not looking at the long-term consequences of their personal freedom of running around and acting like a pandemic's not happening.
Well, unfortunately, Ashton, I'll say that all those comments you had sounded very good a few months ago, but unfortunately, the science, the actual science, because science, by definition for everybody, is always changing. There is no settled science. The nature of science is that it's always changing. The settled science on that has shifted. Science evolves, and unfortunately, when it comes to mask mandates and business closures, it's just not there, because you can look at graphs of Florida and California, Florida being largely open, California being largely shut down. Same kind of trajectory with the virus. You can look up the graphs yourself. There was a beautiful graph that just came out about comparing Indiana to Missouri in terms of with mask mandates. Missouri's never had a statewide mask mandate. Indiana has, and Indiana actually did worse with virus cases during the same period of time in the late fall, early winter as Missouri did. And when it comes to shutting down in other countries, almost all these countries that shut down and supposedly took the virus seriously, like the media likes to tell us, are now shutting down again even harder. And when we talk about lockdowns, if you want to look in France or Germany, I've got relatives over in Europe myself. In France, you couldn't even leave your house without having papers from the government, like literally downloading an app on your phone and saying, hey, can I leave the house? So they had a very, very, very strict lockdown for quite a long time that all these so-called experts recommended. And they're having worse virus cases than us right now. So I'm sorry, this argument that shutting down the economy and pumping stimulus into it is somehow going to cure the virus, that argument is becoming more and more dated by the way, or by the day. And the liberty people, the conservative people are going to have the last laugh on this one. I guarantee you that right now.
Okay, here's a question for you. Hold
on, John, real quick.
Okay, I try to move on, but that's okay.
Real quick. Yeah, the other thing, though, is that shutting it down and trying to prevent the spread of the cases at the beginning of the virus and through the virus, things have obviously lifted somewhat as we've gone along and have more understanding of what the virus does and what it means. But the problem is hospitals were being overrun. We had no idea how to handle this. We had no idea what to do. And for someone who commented, we were told not to wear masks at the beginning. Yeah, we were told not to wear masks at the beginning because our healthcare workers needed the masks and we didn't have enough of them.
They didn't stipulate at the beginning.
What'd you say?
They didn't stipulate that point at the beginning. They said, just don't wear masks. Fauci says there's no reason to be wearing a mask.
No, they did stipulate that at the beginning. I knew that. And I said that when they did. And if you would look at it, you would know that, because that's what I told my parents when my parents tried to get me to wear a mask was I'm not taking a mask because they've said the healthcare workers need it more. So once they had more masks and they had the PPE equipment that they needed, then obviously it was open for that. They were encouraging people to wear fabric coverings. We had no idea how this worked. We were all going along. We were all trying to learn as we were going along in this process. Nobody knew what to do. And so it's a learning process. And so every time something new comes out and somebody's upset about it, it's like, yeah, we're trying to learn about how this works. We're doing the best that we can. Scientists are doing the best that they can. And I just think that that's something to point out.
Ashton, I have to correct your fallacy, though. I'm sorry. When it comes to the masks, Fauci said in the very beginning that it quote, gives people a false sense of security to be running around with a mask. And you can go back to an interview that he did in early March of 2020 about that. This is a fact. This is not my opinion. I was just listening to the Fauci interview the other day, and even the Surgeon General at the time came out and had a tweet saying, seriously, people, don't wear masks. They don't stop the spread of COVID. So they can say they changed their opinion, but no, this idea that it was all to save masks for healthcare workers, maybe that's partially true, but they certainly did not articulate that in the beginning at all. So that's
the case. Well, when they were saying don't wear masks, don't buy masks, save them for the healthcare workers, that did happen. But I'm saying that we learn. So you're saying March, that's the beginning of COVID. They learn how things work over time. And to say that how they decided something was in March is the same as it has to be now is not the case. You learn more, so you change and adapt what you're doing. I mean, if you try and it helps, it's airborne. They didn't know exactly how this spread. They had no idea how this was spreading. And so you can see, I mean, if you just put a mask on and try and blow out a candle, if your mask is effective, you can't. So obviously it's helping the spread of air coming from your mouth. It's catching droplets. So it's doing something from spreading germs. So that's, I mean, to say that it doesn't help at all, if you're not wearing an effective mask, maybe like the people that wear face coverings that have holes in them just to say they're wearing a face covering so they can go in a store, that's not going to do anything. But surgical masks and effective 3-layer masks, those are helpful.
Well, but actually they're not helpful because, like I said, with the graphs and we're talking about mask mandates specifically, somebody wants to go wear a mask, whatever, but government policies did not help. I mean, you look at the trajectory of Missouri and Indiana. Missouri had no restrictions on businesses, masks, anything. And they still had way less cases than Indiana did over a 3-month period. If you want, Ashton, I can send you the graph as soon as we get off the call. I got it saved somewhere around here. But it's you can look it up and you can compare other states, California and Florida, Georgia and Texas, before when Texas still had its mask mandate. The science isn't there. The science has evolved and mask mandates don't work.
The science may be there if people actually wore their masks and wore them correctly, but they didn't. You can't tell me that you went out and saw people wearing their masks, because I certainly didn't, even when it was mandated.
Speculation. When I go into a grocery store, 99% of those people in there are wearing a mask except me. So it didn't work.
Well, it depends on where you are. There's a place down in downtown Carmel. They posted a picture. I think it's called Woody's, or I don't want to say the name of the business and be wrong.
Don't say the name.
I'm not going to say the name. Don't say Woody's because I actually don't know if that's the business.
Okay. Don't say that. Disregard.
There was somewhere downtown Carmel where there's a picture of just everybody inside with no masks on because people don't care. They go out and do what they want to do. If they get around other people who are comfortable, then they're going to take their masks off. And there ended up being some sort of COVID outbreak there. And our mayor got COVID. So it does happen.
But yet in states like California, Connecticut, Illinois, where they've actually done surveys seeing high levels of mask compliance, you still had the same bell curve that went up, cases going up and then coming down, just like in Florida, just like in Indiana, just like in North Dakota. So it's a straw man argument. Your argument is solely based on a speculation that it could help maybe if people just did it right. Well, the facts are that it didn't help. You're not, even if we just take your argument at face value that somehow, people just need to do it right, you're never going to get 100% compliance, whether it comes with business close downs or shutdowns, mask mandates, whatever. So that's why getting back to tie this all together with the stimulus is that this government intervention.
We ruined our topic for next week. We were going to talk about masks. Yeah, I forgot. We got too heated. Oh, man.
But tie this all together is that government policies don't work generally. When you do, let me just finish my thought and I'll let you in. That they generally don't work and they just make things worse. And I'm saying that the financial consequences, nobody is talking about this. Even my conservative friends that are getting their stimulus checks do not realize the kind of cataclysm that comes if we just keep printing money. It'll be like Weimar Germany in the 1920s, where you go to hyperinflation. People need to realize a stimulus check today is losing a lot of money tomorrow for you and your kids and your grandkids.
I just want, and I know that she's your wife, John, but get COVID and get over it is a really insensitive thing to say. Over 500,000 Americans have died of this virus. So to say get COVID and get over it, I know people who have died. People have family members who have died. That's a really insensitive thing to say to so many who have suffered a tragedy because of this virus. it's not something to just get over. Like I said, my brother is in the military. He is in really good physical condition, works out constantly because he's in the military. He got COVID and he is still suffering the effects from it and having trouble breathing and having trouble with his heart. So it's not something that everybody can just get over. This is really causing long-term problems for people.
Well, Ashton, I'll pose a question to you because, I mean, like I said, the original topic is the stimulus. Tell me how a looming debt crisis with over $25 trillion in debt now, I think it's going on 28 trillion. I got to double check my numbers, but it's going to be approaching 28, $30 trillion. And with all this money being printed and how traditionally governments that print a lot of money, you know, it leads to hyperinflation. Tell me how this is not a big problem, this government intervention with stimulus, and how this is not a Pandora's box we're opening up.
I mean, I think that in the end, this is not, I don't disagree with you, Jacob, that this can cause, I can't, I'm sorry, I can't, like, it is insensitive. It is, like, people are dying to just
Ashton,
say,
please stay on topic.
John's putting the comment up, so I'm just addressing it. I will remind me and I will come back.
We got to just do a little, take a breath here on the comments. We want to get people involved, and, you know, Lisa happens to be my wife, and she is, I thought people joke around about my liberal wife, but this mask thing has got her, got her sideways. This is what has made this so, just let's get back to the Fauci comment. Jacob, you were right. He did say don't wear a mask early. Now he's wearing two. So we get mixed signals on this. And I understand that because it is a moving situation. But I think people get caught up in their position and this and that. And if they don't, I know a lot of people that have died from this. The people that I know weren't pictures of health, but still it affects people so differently. So we got to keep in mind, we need to look through this at other people's lenses on how it affects people. And remember, we got a civil show here going, and we're already up to about 120 comments, which is over what we usually have. So I knew this would be a topic that would get us, it's a very sensitive topic. I mean, a lot of people have opinions on it, and, we're trying to do the best we can. So let's get back to where were we? How'd I do that for a reset? So I guess
well, my question I had for Ashton was the negative effects of stimulus, either through the rapidly inflating federal debt and inflation, basically, because eventually with the federal debt, because of how much we've tacked on, especially with these $3 trillion deficits we're now running, the interest in the debt is going to be outrageous, especially if interest rates go up by just merely 1%. And interest rates can't stay down at 0% or 0.5% forever. They got to go up eventually. So we're going to have a big debt crisis. We're going to have all these dollars floating around our economy, that's going to devalue our currency. And you're telling me that somehow this is a good policy to be having stimulus instead of just opening up the country, taking the knowledge that we have with COVID and cutting our losses and say, hey, we can't cause another huge, bigger problem to fix a problem that we're largely getting over with now.
Yeah, I did the quick math on $1.9 trillion at 5% interest. That's $9.5 billion just in interest. Yep. So that's just on that little bit. But you cannot look at that number. You need to write down $1.9 trillion and look at all the zeros. I mean, we just throw it around like it's just a little bit of money. So that's sort of concerning, but I don't know. I don't know I can't tell you I have a solution. I can say, hey, this is all good for everybody. So, and this is what somebody says, housing market will crash soon.
Yep.
Because right now it is like, it's crazy. If you have a house around Indianapolis area that's in the $300,000 range, you list it at 8 a.m. in the morning, you'll have 5 offers before lunch at this point because inventory is so low. And some of that is building new as the inflation has really hit the construction industry hard. So say COVID hit the treated lumber. wasn't the lumber, but the people that actually processed it. They had a big outbreak, just like the meat packers had a big outbreak. And we had a problem with that. We had a shortage, which has driven the cost of, say, a regular 4x8 sheet of plywood that, you know, you put on, say, on your roof decking or whatever, used to be about $12. Now it's like $32. So that's a huge difference. So it's sort of driving. We have inflation in some areas, but then we have, say, if you're a rental property owner or a business owner that has leased out a business to some people, they can't pay. So we really just have a really lopsided situation going here.
Well, and John, generally when inflation is calculated, from my understanding, they do not include food and energy expenses, which generally hits the consumer the highest. And I will, you know, make a note to all my conservative friends out there. When you guys are saying that Biden was the one that raised gas prices, sure, you know, part of that's true through his regulation, but in reality, it wasn't all Biden's fault. I hate to say it, but you know what? It was actually Republicans and Democrats in Congress that were just printing more money and causing this inflation. I mean, that was even a bigger effect than Biden's policies in the energy sector or anything. So I'm telling you folks, this inflation is going to be a big deal. And my message to all the listeners out there is go read about Weimar Germany in the 1920s, and that will be your United States if this is not taken care of.
That's a lot of, that's some history. Well, you know, if we look at the Great Depression, you know, when that hit, this was the opposite problem. The money supply, they kept pulling it back. So then when they had a run, they didn't have enough money supply. This is the opposite. We have a huge money supply. We've been pretty much printing money since 2008, quantitative easing. And if you want to read up on that, then you know, that's some other nighttime reading that'll put you right to sleep. But it talks about that, you know, when we start making more money, it goes up. And that really hurts the poor people. I'll tell you one quick story about John Wayne back in the 70s. He did an interview with Dick Cavett or one of those guys, Phil Donahue. And he says, well, listen here, Phil, you put 20 men in a room and give them each $5 and come back in 10 years. And one of the SOBs will have all the money. And that's pretty much how this works. You know, we need to give all this money to the poorest people we can find because they're the best ones to spend it. And it's going to trickle back up to the rich people. They're just going to end up it. We have more billionaires now than we've ever had. And that's just the reality of how it works. You know, some people are really good at making money. Some people are really good at spending money and not having it. So I guess with that question, Jacob, what would you say? What would you say would be a solution with that, having that in mind, as far as where should this money be going?
Well, I mean, like I said, I'm really opposed to stimulus altogether. I mean, I think the solution is you just need to open the economy back up. You need to have pro-growth, pro-business policies, and that will get the economy going. I mean, very similar to what we had during the Trump economy, because, you know, we had 3-4% unemployment. You need to have, you know, lower taxes, you know, give people incentives to go out there and start small businesses and be entrepreneurs, not just get people used to receiving government checks all the time. And quite frankly, the only time I would support any stimulus is maybe just one bill where you come out and maybe just give, like, you know, a check or two just to get people on their feet or whatever. But when we just keep doing these one stimulus after another stimulus after another stimulus, this is not worth it. I mean, especially with the unemployment, by paying people more to stay at home than to go to work, like we had earlier in 2020, and even now to an extent. I mean, this kind of stuff will not get us out of this hole. This will put us deeper in the hole. The solution, in short, like I said, is open the economy, get government out of this, and let the private sector fix itself. It can bounce back. We've had worse economic crises than this in our history, but we will not. This one will become even worse if we do not get government out of it ASAP.
Go ahead, Ashton. I see the wheels turning.
We have to make sure that what we're doing and the money that we're spending is actually going to help the American people. Bailing out, like I said earlier, bailing out large corporations is not where we should be expending our energy.
I agree with you.
The richer are getting richer in the pandemic and the poorer are getting poorer. And we need to look at that, and we need to help the people that need the help. We cannot have a country where children and veterans and our seniors are living on the streets because they can't afford to pay their rent. They aren't going to the hospital because they can't afford their hospital bills. We cannot have that in this country. We are not a third world country. We are the United States of America. We have the largest economy in the world. We should be able to help our citizens. And that is what we need to do. That is what we need to start looking at. We need to look at American citizens and start thinking about how we can help them get through this pandemic and how we can get through this together as a country. And I keep saying that, but we are truly, truly all in this together. We are all experiencing COVID. We are all experiencing the hardships that are happening right now, some people more than others. But we should be feeling this as a country, that our fellow citizens are going through this, and what can we do to help them? And it's just sad to me that some people don't care what happens to others. I will gladly pay more on my taxes if that means that the little boy that lives down the street can go get health care. I will gladly pay more on my taxes for that. And I will gladly pay more on my taxes so that a mother can pay rent and her children don't end up on the street.
But Ashton, you're not addressing the direct question, though, is if you are pumping all this money in, and we already came to an agreement that when you pump money into the economy like this, you're stoking inflation. That means that the buying power of each individual dollar out there is going to become worth less and less. I mean, I saw the other day, I was just, I'm kind of a coin collector. So I went to a friend's house and was looking at some of his old coins. Do you know that a 50-cent coin used to be made of silver? Now that coin is worth more just for the silver content than it is for its face value, meaning that just over the last 70, 80 years, the value of our currency has declined so much. This stimulus is going to bring it down even more, and all these government freebies. So you saying that you're helping people by giving them all this free money is actually only helping them in the very short term. And when I say short term, like just that $1,400 check, and when it's gone, they're screwed, because the inflation is going to go up and it's going to devalue their currency and only make their life harder. So if you really want to help people, which I do as well, because I do care about people in society, we need to open the economy up, because keeping the economy closed benefits big corporations like Amazon, Microsoft, and all the big companies. And we need to stop spending, and devaluing our currency. And unfortunately, the people that are pushing for the biggest spending are big government rhino Republicans, Democrats, and especially Democrat governors as well, that are keeping their economy shut down on top of that. So that's the issue right then and there.
Here you go, Ashton. Here's one for you from Penny. You're starting to sound like a Republican. So wait, hold on. Oh, what? Look at that. Sorry.
I mean, I don't think so, because the things that I think we should have done that would have made this so we wouldn't have to spend this much is we should have originally had universal health care. We should have had.
Let's talk about where we're at now.
Yeah, but that's a whole nother show. If you want to do that, that's a whole nother show. I'll get into that one big time with you. I'm very mixed on that. If it's, so, but let's
social programs, government spending on social programs and helping people and small businesses is important and isn't going to be as big of a problem with inflation as we might think it is. I don't think, but spending, for example, I'm still speaking. For example, the last stimulus that was passed actually spent $50 billion bailing out the airline industry. Or the one before that, $50 billion bailing out the airline industry. It didn't even give hospitals $100 billion like they were asking for. Restaurants and retailers and hotels, $15 billion. And it wrote in general tax relief for the rich. That's just not what we should be worrying about right now. We need to worry about those things were not necessary. And I understand the idea that keeping those people in business keeps people employed, but that's not what they used that bailout for. They still had mass layoffs. So we have to individually help the people, these people that it's affecting, and stop spending so much money bailing out people who don't need it. Jeff Bezos doesn't need us to bail him out.
I agree with you, but answer the question about inflation. About inflation. How are you saying that inflation is not going to result in this? I can give you historical examples of this, and I've even given you an example with our own country, how just the amount of spending that we've done up to this point has devalued our currency so much, to where gold was $35 an ounce in 1971, and now it's $1,700. How is that not inflation? Tell me your evidence as to how this stimulus is not going to negatively impact inflation. Just because Jerome Powell said it won't? I don't trust Jerome Powell. Tell me your evidence.
You're putting words in my mouth. I never said inflation wasn't going to happen. I don't think that that's the case. Inflation is always happening. There's always a steady rate of inflation. I do think that there will be some inflation. I'm saying that the importance of making sure people have a home is our concern right at this very second. You can concern yourself about what happens in 10 years, but I'm concerned about kids dying on the street right this moment because they don't have a roof over their head. It might be okay now because it's nice outside, but in the winter, or food, or healthcare, being able to go to the doctor, or any of those things, being able to find transportation to your job. People need help now, and we have to concern ourselves with that. And we're going to have to figure out what we need to do to make things happen. How can we get things back on track? Increasing taxes on people who can pay more taxes.
Which will
increasing taxes on Jeff Bezos, not decreasing his taxes and giving him tax breaks. That's people like that. It's not going to cover the entire amount, but I'm saying that that's something that's going to bring more money into the economy, is taxing people who need it, who don't need that money. They don't need that much money. And they're hoarding the wealth. It's not being redistributed. Trickle-down economics don't work. And telling me, look at history, look at the historical examples. I understand that, but I asked you to look at the historical examples of when gun control works, and that's not something that people want to listen to.
We're not talking about gun control.
We're rolling all through the topics tonight.
But this is something that is so new at this level, what we're trying to do, what's happening to other countries, trying to figure out how we can help the American people now and today with this new virus that we're experiencing and what's going on. This is an unprecedented time for the American people, where we are socially, where we are with everything going on with COVID. We're just trying to figure it out. And I just think that we need to be concerned about how people are able to live their lives right now.
We're not just trying to figure it out. We know a lot about this virus, and most governors have said, and Democrat ones included, that we're nearing the end of it. COVID is not the big concern here. The big concern is that you think that by giving people all these freebies right now, that's going to help them out. Sure, it will help them in the short term. I'm giving you that. I'm giving you that point, that $1,400 will help somebody pay their rent or whatever. But you know what? If you keep devaluing the currency, the standard of living goes down. And that's what we've seen. That's why people have a lot lower standard of living in a lot of places than they did in the 1970s, because it's coupled with a lot of things, deindustrialization and devaluing of the currency. So this devaluing of the currency that stimulus policies and the people on the left and on the center right are promoting is not going to work. It's going to make people suffer more. And there was a comment that Adam just had a second ago where he said that millions will die when the currency collapses. That's 100% true. And if people don't have some sort of tangible asset like gold or land or silver or whatever, or just goods that can be bartered, they're really screwed. So this debt question, this inflation question needs to be addressed, and we need to stop having emotional appeals of, oh, we got to help somebody today and then screw them in 5 years. That's not how it's going to work.
Wow. So this is we're going to have to end it here because we still have to do 3 bills and a lie. But we have a running joke here behind stage that we have a backup topic in case that we run out of talking here, talking points. And we didn't get to it tonight. So when we get to it, you'll laugh because it's going to be so old that you'll think, but we may never get to it. So tonight, our segment's going to be the 3 bills and a lie. So we're going to wrap it up. And you guys, really a lively conversation. And I knew this would be a hot topic. And I think it's on a lot of people's minds, obviously, whenever you see somebody with a mask on or you hear about somebody being sick. But I really believe we are rounding the bend here. And I think that things are going to, it seems like it's getting a little better. So let's go ahead and we're going to play the intro on this. Three bills and a lie. Then we'll get to it. We'll start with Jacob, then Ashton, then me.
Howdy. It's time for our segment, Three Bills and a Lie. You got to tell us which one's the lie out of these three bills.
Okay, here is Jacob's law or bill here. So that's the right one, isn't it? Yep. So go ahead and explain this one.
Okay, so I'll read it to you guys first. No eavesdropping, which is a state law. Every person guilty of secretly recording in any building with intent to overhear and to repeat or publish the same to injure others is guilty of a felony. So meaning like don't go into a building and you see a couple people talking and going in there and just take out your phone and start recording them or anything and then publish that like on YouTube or Facebook Live or whatever, because you will be guilty of a felony in this particular jurisdiction that's passing that. So keep that phone in your pocket, all right?
I hope that's not Indiana because I've done a lot of Facebook Lives on people.
I have choices. I'm not in jail yet.
I've done the mayor. I've done my political opponent. Yeah, I've done all that stuff. So, okay. So, Ashton, here's you. That one sounds pretty reasonable. I don't know about that one. So here you go, Ashton. This one's yours.
Yes. So no person shall sell or possess living baby chicks, ducklings, or other fowl or rabbits which have been dyed or colored. Violators shall be fined less than $100 and no more than $500.
Okay, the Easter Bunny's going to be mad if he's pink Easter Bunny because he's going to have to be gray. That's all. One color, gray. Okay, so here's mine. If you're the type of person who gets a laugh out of mooning other folks, you might want to keep your pants on. Dropping your drawers is a chargeable offense that can bring a steep fine. So I'm like, okay, that one's good. Now, these are actually, which one's a lie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post these on the Mouthwash page. And if you don't like the Mouthwash page, what are you waiting on? We need to get you on that page and get you to like it. We're like up to 398 likes on that page. We got a little more followers, but we want to break the 400 before the end of the week. And then also I got that loaded up there, the Peeps on the Street segment, so you can watch it and hear it and all that good stuff, hopefully. So we'll post these on here. It'll be a like for one, a laugh for one, and something else for one. You just pick your one you want, and next week we'll tell you which one was not so truthful. I mean, look at those two faces. They both got beady little eyes, so that's it's suspect. What do you got? One of us is lying. Who is it? So let's see. We've made it through another episode, and you guys are doing a good job. So, Ashton, do you have any parting words for our audience?
Just care about other people.
I like that. How about you, Jacob?
Like I said, study your history, particularly Weimar Germany in the 1920s, and just read about any other great empire, Rome, any other country that devalued their currency, and see what happened to them. It did not end well. Yep,
I tell you, it's history, repeats itself, and everybody stay safe. And we were going to do the mask conversation for next week, but I think we may do something different now. I think we got two birds with one stone, so to speak, there on that. So we thank you for tuning in. Tell your friends, like our show. And if you have a topic you would like us to cover, maybe send it to us. Send it to us early so I can do the Peeps on the Streets. And hopefully Thomas Breedlove will be back because, I didn't have the sound right. And he's pretty good at it. So hopefully we'll get him back and he'll do our Peeps on the Street. So thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next week, 8 o'clock Tuesday live. And we're out.